part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Gary is back from vacation and full of crap once again. It took no time for him to get fired up. This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we're glad you're listening. As always, we're brought to you by the Press Play Podcast Network.
You're
Gary,
spicy.
You just love making these outlandish black and white statements.
I just really enjoy getting you fired up before we even hit the record button.
Like he needed to bring up Tua again, guys.
I didn't need to.
Exactly,
It just
bro.
happened. I made a comment about the cup you gave me for my drink. I was really wondering when my lips were burning. I realized I was drinking out of a Dolphins cup.
So many jokes that I can't say right now.
Oh, man. No, So all I said is that I recognize that the Dolphins have lots of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't think Tua is the guy that can get
This
it done.
isn't what this isn't even on the agenda.
I know,
I'm looking
but
down the
you
agenda.
started it off.
No, I
by
wasn't.
talking
It's
about
not
me.
even just Tua. It's just in general these outlandish bold
What
statements.
outlandish bold statements are we talking about?
13-win Colts.
I think 12-13 is realistic.
We're at 12 now, guys. Give it 2 weeks, it'll be 10.
No,
and
it
then 500 season by the time we get
No,
further
it
down
won't.
the road.
Well, look at the schedule.
Yeah. See, and there's always justification too. That's the key.
I don't just make statements out of nowhere. I make statements based on reality.
If it's your first time joining us, this is normal. This is normal. Let's change the subject. I'm getting a little heated here.
We're going back to the schedule? Okay.
Yeah, let's get back on the agenda. Let's talk a little hobby news. If you haven't heard it by now, you only listen to us. And that's okay. Definitive Baseball, Topps product.
Really nice product.
Yep.
High-end product.
High-end product.
$2,000 a box.
$2K a box.
Is there 10 cards in a box? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a high-end
There
product.
was a card, a dual patch auto, a Rosarena, Austin Meadows.
Which, let's be honest, if that's a card you hit before all this happened, you're like, this was the worst box I've ever spent $2,000 on.
If it existed like a year and a half ago, though.
Maybe.
Playoff time.
Yeah.
Not bad. Anyway, number to 35. So the way it works is these players sign contracts and they agree that they're going to be compensated to fill out these autographs. Sometimes you get redemptions because they haven't been autographed yet. In this case, someone over at Topps was like, guys, we've been waiting forever.
We got to get this product
on
out.
this Meadows or Rosarena dual patch. You all go take a lunch, and whenever you come back, there's going to be 35 autographed cards.
It looked like they were autographed by an 8-year-old that just learned cursive.
Yeah. Just learned cursive.
Yeah.
Terribly done. So much so that they're like making a point of getting every letter in there.
Yeah.
That's the first clue.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, phony.
Austin.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, don't forget. Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah,
that
you're
added
welcome.
a lot to my sentence.
Yeah.
And as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. And they were exposed immediately because the internet exists and you have actual autographs from these players that look nothing like this child's signature that works for Topps. Isn't the first time something crazy's happened. Isn't the first time some redemption hasn't been fulfilled. Isn't the first time that somebody's altered a card or something goofy's happened. But there's a difference now. The Big Player Fanatics has issued a statement in response. If you're not familiar, Fanatics owns just about everything. Part of that was not only did they purchase the rights from the MLBPA, but they also bought Topps early on as they were making moves. They issued a statement that sounded very different and, in my opinion, quite refreshing.
Yeah.
We screwed up.
Yeah.
We're going to make it right. And by make it right, we don't mean send you an autograph of somebody even more irrelevant than the players on these cards.
Right.
So they said you will get a box of Definitive, and then are they also getting another autograph?
Correct.
Instead?
Yeah, they're going to get another autograph, a replacement autograph, and a fresh box of Definitive. So, that's huge. Like I said, it's a $2,000 box. Now it's not, obviously their Topps cost isn't $2,000, but like Topps is losing out on probably $1,000, $1,200 at distribution cost.
Yep.
for each one of those. There's 35 of them, which in the great grand scheme of things, Topps is going to be out $45,000. But it's a huge thing in the hobby, and so much so that I didn't even know this because I've been on vacation. What did you tell me Mojo Break is doing as a promo with it?
I was listening to Mojo Break podcast, and they're also going to offer a box of Definitive Baseball if you happen to hit one of those. Brilliant marketing.
Through Mojo Break.
So there's 2 boxes that you can hit. Now, quick reminder, these are dual patch autos numbered to 35. Only 35 in the whole country, but it's basically created an Easter egg. By Fanatics saying, we screwed up and we will make it right, they just did some marketing genius for the breakers.
Right. Well, and if this had been a Panini product, there would have been completely radio silence from Panini, or they would have tried to say, no, those are absolutely their autographs. That's what they sent back to us. But in all likelihood, there would have been radio silence, and if anybody had complained about it, they would have been ignored. At the very best, Panini would have replaced it with something worth 10% of what it was worth.
So here's a question I have for you.
Yeah. Panini sucks?
Do they have to turn in that card?
Well, no. If you hit that card, you don't have to.
Is there enough going on here for this to become a valuable error card?
Somebody actually asked that on our Facebook page, and I'll give the same response now that I did then. To a very small niche of collectors, yes. To a very small niche of collectors that collect nothing but error cards and weird stuff like that. I know guys that collect only severely miscut cards or blank back cards, things like that. Yes, but the problem that you've got is it's such a small niche of collectors that there's not enough competition for it to really drive the price through the roof.
I hear you. Tampa Bay is, not that they weren't a little bit of a chase this year, but that's the chase now in that product.
Yeah, for sure.
So that'll be fun to watch. Keep an eye on it. I don't know how I feel. Like, I really appreciate how Fanatics responded, but Topps, is there nobody checking quality on this? Is there nobody taking a look at this? Is there nobody verifying that these are legit autographs? How did it happen? That's what I want to know.
That's the thing that's weird about it, because it's one thing, like, I think we all are aware these players are signing roughly each 6,000 to 7,000 autographs for these manufacturers every year. Okay? Some of them are sticker, some of them are on card. And every year, that's why redemptions exist. There's a certain percentage of players that just don't care. Leaf actually had to take a couple of players to court to get the stuff signed and back to them because they had a contract with them. But some of these players just don't care. And I could see, and it's been a well-known thing for a long time. Like with Luka Doncic, it was funny because his mom signed half of his stuff his rookie year. Like, it's kind of a known thing that these guys get tired of signing this stuff, so they have their friends help, they have their moms help, whoever. And to be frank, when these companies, Topps, Panini, whoever, are guaranteeing the authenticity of these autographs that we all know some aren't authentic, there's a little bit fraudulent to it. But it's just kind of one of those wink, wink, nod, nod things that everybody kind of knows. This was so blatantly done. They were obviously both signatures signed by the same person. These cards never left Topps facility.
They must be 12, because at a certain age, you would at least say, I can't make these look identical to each other.
Well, and I think here's what I think probably happened. And we'll never know for sure, but I think what probably happened is these cards accidentally never got shipped. And then it was right up to time to package, and somebody went, oh, crap.
Yep.
We've got blank auto cards that never got shipped out, and we can't push this back because of Austin Meadows and Randy Arozarena.
Too late to even put redemptions in.
Right.
That's how late it was.
So it was just
to turn on the blue and white ink and let it happen.
Okay, here we go.
Jimmy over in the warehouse said, hold my beer. I got you.
I think that's probably what happened, but they are handling it right. Yeah. So that's kudos to Fanatics, kudos to Topps.
It is ridiculous when you consider the price of these products and that this is even possible.
Oh, for sure. And again,
especially for the gamblers. So the people that are, jumping in a break or a case break of this stuff, the people that really get a rush from, the gaming side of it. If anything like this happened in a casino, it's over.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's been interesting to see how people respond. I think I think there's more to the story, and I'd like to know what it is. We probably will never hear, though. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. What if you got another box and it also...
That would be amazing. You're just like daisy chaining boxes of Definitive.
You've never been more luckily unlucky.
Yeah, you're just daisy chaining boxes of Definitive. What else we got hobby news-wise?
Product release. Chronicles Football Hobby.
Yep.
This is a Panini football product that I think actually has a reasonable value for what you can hit.
For what you could hit, yes. Now, keep in mind, this hobby box you can pick up after tax for about $620 right now. I think it's running $590 to $600 most places. You're going to pay tax, so $620, $630. There's 48 cards in the box, so you're spending $15 to $16 per card. There are some low number stuff I've seen. I saw a Trevor Lawrence to 5 pop out of a box yesterday. I mean, there's some
Prism
good stuff.
Black.
You got Prism Black in there. I mean, there's some cool stuff in Chronicles. Personally, it's a product that I'm more of a retail fan of than a hobby fan. Now, that being said, there are some things that you cannot hit in retail at all. You're not going to hit any RPAs in retail. There are RPAs in hobby. You're not going to hit any of that in retail. The retail hasn't hit yet. It'll probably hit this week or next, would be my guess. But Chronicles football's a fun product.
Excuse me. I'm sorry that I interrupted you.
I don't care. You're fine.
I am sorry.
I interrupt the hell out of you.
I'm deeply troubled. I would kind of compare this product, and hear me out the rest of the way, as a licensed football product. I would compare it similarly to retail Bowman, and here's why. When you buy a blaster out of that, you're going to get 3 or 4 base rookies that are worth $3 to $5.
Which basically covers the cost of your blaster.
Pretty close to covering your... Now, you could hit something pretty big. I think if you're buying retail to hit something big, you're going to need to buy a lot of it. What did you buy? Cello boxes?
Yeah, I was buying boxes.
How many cello packs came in that?
12.
And then the cello packs there are just an individual pack, right? They don't break them out
they're a fat pack. I think there's 20 cards in a fat pack.
Yeah. So, if it's something where you want to rip, I would do it the same way I do Bowman, which is I buy a lot of it, and that kind of cuts through some of the variants that you'll get into.
Well, in the quarterback class is good enough. So here's something to think about with Chronicles, especially if you're buying retail. And to be frank, I did not do this last year. I wish that I had. I probably ripped 6 or 7 boxes of cellos last year. And I was buying them for $90 a box. This was before the price increases hit all this stuff. So this year you'll probably at retail be buying them for $120. But I was buying them for $90 a box, $95 a box in bulk. Those are $220 boxes now. Yeah. And I wish I had just stuck a couple on a shelf. That being said, I didn't open a single box that didn't have either a Herbert Prism Black Silver or a Burrow Prism Black Silver. I didn't open a single one that didn't have one of those. And at the time they were $120 cards. Yeah. Still are. Yeah. So I like the product. A lot of people look down on it, but like Jason said, even your base quarterback rookies are anywhere from $2 to $5 a piece, and you're going to hit a ton of them.
And I would treat it like Bowman Chrome first. You put them away, you sleeve them right away.
Yeah.
Find one of them that pops. You might have 5 or 10 of them. Maybe 3 of those grayed out. You could get 2 10s out of that. Like with
you
realistic
sell them for $65, $70 a piece.
If you need to get the money out of it. It's a fun product to rip. You get to see a lot of the different products that Panini offers. It is cheaper. It is looked down on because it is not a super expensive product. But I will just say this. Prism is king, but look at what's happening right now. $1,500 a box and people are getting murdered.
Oh, yeah.
So when you have one that's, reasonable, I think retail's a play this year. We'll see what happens. But Chronicles football is a good one. I'm sick of, so here's a bigger overarching question. We've all just become okay with the fact that all these football products are releasing in the summer afterwards. We talked about it being COVID-related shortages, a lot of stuff that was being impacted by it. Is this the new norm? Is this the way it's going to be? Or do we kind of make a correction where we're releasing these at a time when people are more excited about the product?
I think that the reason that Panini has drugged their feet over the last 7 months with products, both NBA and NFL, they've blamed it on COVID, but I think COVID has very little to do with it. I think it has to do with the fact that the current draft class in both the NBA and the NFL is pretty trash, and they're milking the previous draft class as long as they can, because when 2022 NFL product drops, Well, draft picks have already dropped. Chronicles draft has already dropped. Nobody wants it. Who's chasing Kenny Pickett? Are we to the point where people are going to chase Aiden Hutchinson?
I'm putting a few boxes away just in case.
Sure, you can
it's
put
a
few
great
boxes
year
away.
for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in ripping it, but I think that's more to do with it than anything else. They're just trying, and like I've said before, we got about a 2-year window. If you haven't listened to our interview on the Chase Smith podcast, I talked about this there. If you haven't, go check it out. It's the Chase Smith podcast.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Correct. The printing presses are going to be in full blast at Panini for the next 2.5 years. So be ready for that. Another piece of hobby news that we didn't have on the list.
Okay.
That
I will allow it, even though it's not on my agenda, but it better be good. Go.
It's 2 pieces of.
Oh,
they're good. They're good. They're related. It's grading related. PSA announced $18 a card
for members.
For members, if you're at economy, it's 5 to 6 month term, but back to a reasonable price point for membership. But you do have to spend $199 a year to be a member.
So $200 to spend $18.
Correct, and wait 4 to 6 months.
But if you've got something, so 4 to 6 months puts us in the middle of football season.
If you time it right, it's not silly.
So big players. I wouldn't do much with vintage right now.
No, I mean, well, vintage.
Well, I guess
maybe.
you're getting into the $18 price point. But
yeah, and vintage, you're not trying to flip for the most part. It's longer term hold. The other grading related news, and we did a reveal because I did a submission with them, and I like what they're doing still. They just had a long way to go as far as getting resale value up, but I love their grading process and their transparency. FCG also just lowered pricing, $14 a card. That's for 1 card or for 200 cards. $14 a card. Money back guarantee, 10 business day turnaround. And they changed their grading scale to reflect what the hobby seems to want. So they're not grading differently, but instead of a 9.5 being gem mint, 10 is gem mint now. Mm-hmm. And then there's no distinction above that, just like PSA
when
and
it comes
SGC.
to selling these slabs, it's still primarily a baseball prospecting.
It
is mainly where a lot of their business is.
It is. So their 9.5s and 10s do carry a little bit of a premium. I have actually made a decent amount of money buying cards that are 9s or lower, because their 9s or lower sell for 20 to 30% under raw.
Yeah.
And just crack them and sell it raw and make a profit. For real.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's funny.
And I actually was talking to Matt. Matt listens to the podcast. He's the owner. He actually was just talking to him a couple days ago. He does want to come on. We've talked about it before. We need to get that scheduled.
100%, yep.
And, but Matt, is aware, but he's made a couple of very salient points. While there are some things that I believe that any grading company can do to help their image in the marketplace and their resale value, at the end of the day, the buyers determine how much something is worth, not the grading company. And I actually got into a discussion with the guy who runs the largest group for FCG in Canada. He probably sends them 4,000 or 5,000 cards a month. And he got real contentious. And I just asked him very simply, you're telling us you're the face of this company in Canada. Cool. Are you willing to buy FCG 10s at 90 to 95% of what PSA 10s of the same card go for? And he wouldn't answer my question. And it's because he's not. Because he knows that he can't make money on them if he does that. That's just the reality. Do I think that there's a lot of merit in using companies that are extremely transparent and consistent in their grading if you're wanting to know what the true value of a card is?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or the true grade of a card is? Absolutely. I trust their grading implicitly. If you go buy a FCG card with 4.95 subs, there's a real good chance you'll cross it to a 10 at PSA. Or a 9.5 at BGS, or a 10 at SGC. A real good chance.
Yeah. And I think the last thing we need is just 1 or 2 companies that run everything and everybody just takes their word at gospel.
You mean like Fanatics?
It's not, well, there's a part of it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, right now we're excited because, it's easy
Panini's so
for
terrible.
people that, well, it's funny. Podcasts that are hosted by people who break products and have stores will never say a bad thing about Panini. There's always, but you and I will just say, ding dong, the witch is dead. You
Right,
know?
100%.
But then a minute later, they're like, we have all the major sports, and what are you going to do about it?
You're beholden to us.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They seem to be more interested in evangelizing to the world the hobby, which if that's really the approach they take, I think it could be a win-win.
Really good thing, yeah.
But I want to see more grading companies challenge, push the boundaries. I think as long as there are debates about emerging companies and they grade tougher, I think it's good for the hobby. I think it's good that there's always somebody kind of keeping these big companies in check, drawing away from business, creating competition. I think it's good for the marketplace.
PSA graded 1 million cards in June.
It's not bad.
No, but I want to know how many graders they have. Because if you think about it, how much time can you spend on a card?
So you're telling me they spend less time than I spend on my cards before I send them off?
I think if they're spending more than 30 seconds on a card per grader, I'd be shocked. No. I think they're holding the card up, looking for anything obvious, and if they don't see anything obvious, it doesn't go under a scope.
But there's less 10s getting shot out. That's been a big argument. A couple years ago, you were sending Ultra Modern off.
Well, that doesn't mean that that's because it's accurate.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are there less 10s coming out because they're actually grading cards and realizing that they're not 10s? Or are there less 10s coming out because the hedge funds that own them are sending word down the line, hey, the biggest complaint is we give out 10s like candy, so stop it.
Yeah, I don't know. When you have that many cards coming in, I don't think you worry too much about the complaints. And when your marketing thing that gets people excited is for $218, you can grade a card that you get back in 6 months.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Now, I'd be interested to see group subs, what happens there. That might be a play. If you find somebody doing PSA group subs that already has some type of membership, are you going to be in the $22, $25 range per
group
card?
Subs that I've still seen as of 2 days ago are still $100 a card.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. I think it could affect it. Not a lot of those guys are wanting to wait 6 months because if you own a card shop and you're doing group subs as like a side hustle with it, and it's a 6 month wait, 80% of the hobbyists are going to be messaging you every week for an update when there's nothing to say.
For sure.
And that 5 to 6 months with PSA is probably 7 to 9. So, real positive news coming out of the hobby. Up next, a couple things real quick. First off, I just want to give a shout out to my Cincinnati Reds. Your Cincinnati Reds, too.
My Cincinnati Reds, too.
There was a 5-game winning streak. By the time you listen to this, it could be over. But it happened this year. And I was out there with Danny Glover in center field just flapping my arms like there was angels in the outfield. I'm doing it right now. Can you see it?
I can see it. It's really disturbing.
Yeah. Anyway, good job, Reds. And yesterday, here's something I thought was pretty cool on Whatnot. Backyard breaks.
Shocker.
Wow. I thought it was cool. Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts was ripping live with him. They were opening up all kinds of stuff. It was neat to see. I love watching the interaction. A platform like Whatnot is really cool because in real time you can kind of build community. You can chat with other people that are in the hobby. You can have live auctions, breaks, all that kind of stuff. And to do that with somebody like JT.
I want to know if Jonathan Taylor was looking at those jackasses like they were morons when they were screaming over dumb shit.
I am sure they paid him a good chunk of change to hang out.
Fair. Okay. They make me insane. I can barely watch them.
You and I are too old for them.
That 100%.
That's what it is.
Yeah, 100%. I can barely watch it.
Yeah. That's like when somebody's like, do you love 21 Pilots? I'm like, in my car. I don't need to go. I don't need to go with 20,000 people and do that.
Ever. Under any circumstances.
Yeah. I went to Kendrick Lamar once. I was way too old for that. It was pretty cool. But I
can barely go to a show at the LC.
An hour in, I was like, my dogs are barking. Can we all sit down? If we all agree? Can we sit down at the same time?
Oh, we're old. Okay.
Let's jump into something we haven't done in a minute.
Okay.
Let's do a pop or drop.
Let's do it.
So, and it's like, they all seem relevant for current times. So we'll jump in with a couple football ones right away. Baker Mayfield going to the Panthers. Of a lot of like back and forth of what's happening with him. Is he good? Does he suck? Is he a turd with his attitude? Do people hate him? Do people love him? Do they underappreciate what he did for the city of Cleveland? It goes on and on and on. Is he a pop or drop in the hobby right now?
Absolute pop. 100% pop. You can buy RPAs from high-end products numbered to 99 for $200. Now, I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is on the same level as Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or some of those guys, but their RPAs in the same products are $2,000 and $3,000. So
I think barring injury, Baker is a starting quarterback in the league for quite a while.
Yeah, and here's the thing: he's a good football player. Does his attitude rub some people the wrong way? Sure, but
I would say more than some.
Yeah, but does everybody's attitude rub some people, and even more than
Sure.
some, the wrong way?
Fair enough.
And Matt Rule is the perfect coach for Baker Mayfield.
Why do you say that?
Because they're both rah-rah college-style guys.
Yeah.
Kevin Stefanski is not a rah-rah college-style guy. He is NFL, born, bred, raised. Matt Rule and Baker Mayfield are going to go really well together.
They're going to be doing keg stands in the locker room after the game.
Sam Darnold is
Sigma Chi. Sigma Chi.
It was so funny to me that they were like, oh, so we're bringing Baker in. It's going to be an open competition between him and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is trash.
Ever since he did that movie of Pixar, Megamind,
He is trash. He is so not good. Now, again, I always feel like I need to say this because there's always some Yahoo out there that wants to chime in.
Listen up, you Yahoos.
I realize that if you are getting paid to be a quarterback in the NFL, that you are a better quarterback than 99.9% of people that have ever played the position. So I realize that. But in the greater envelope of the NFL, Sam Darnold is trash. There are backup quarterbacks in the league that half the teams would rather have than Sam Darnold.
he's
as their
no
starter.
Fitzmagic.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even on the same planet as Ryan Fitzpatrick.
So Baker's a pop.
yes.
I would agree with that. I don't disagree at all. I think he's a pop right now. I don't like him personally, but I have, with the teams I've cheered for, if I ever have someone on my team leading the team that has that kind of chip on their shoulder, I love it.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, the problem was with his performance, you had that attitude, you had the run that the Browns made. He was instrumental in that program. It did turn around. It's turned around.
Yeah. It's not going to this year with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, but it's definitely turned around from where it was a few years ago.
Agreed.
But man, when he started being like 3 touchdowns, 4 picks, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, like some of those streaky moments where it was just inconsistent, but he's exciting
with
to watch.
One arm.
Yeah.
And with no protection and no help. Like I'm telling you.
Here's my thought. If somebody talks that much, they don't need your help defending them.
Okay.
You know what? Do you at least respect where I'm coming from with
I
that?
do, but what I'm telling you is this.
How many players play hurt and don't feel the need to give the press an update nonstop?
We've had this conversation.
Yeah, we have. But you come back to like, he was broken.
He was. And they don't feel the need to do that because their coaches have their back.
Sit down. If it's that bad, sit down.
Okay.
If the performance wasn't there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hobby-wise, I don't
Pop.
disagree.
Yeah.
I think
Pop.
his prices are cheap. He's a pop. If I'm buying Baker, I'm buying something more short printed, worth some money. I'm
Panthers
not
have
buying
a
cheap
sneaky
stuff.
good receiving core too.
Yep.
Sneaky good.
I think he's old. As long as he's in the league, he's gonna have highlights. He's gonna be. He's an explosive player. He's gonna make big plays.
If he wins that starting job, which he will, and he comes out in the first month and is averaging 3 touchdowns and 1 pick a game, his stuff's gonna double in value.
Okay, let's keep it moving.
Okay.
Enough about Baker. Ever since he planted that flag in Columbus.
That's where your hate is.
Well, 100%. T-Law.
Pop.
I would not disagree with you. That's 2 in a row.
Yeah.
We managed to fight over something we agreed on.
Although
earlier.
I will say his pop is a little bit more muted than I am with Baker because everybody has already figured out that most of his problems were Urban Meyer.
Well, and it wasn't like it was a massive dip when they saw, that this team stinks. He's still somebody they're excited about. He doesn't suck, but it'll be interesting to see him adapt. You have a new coaching scenario. We'll see how they do. But yeah, I'd agree. I think he's a pop. I'm not going now. This is an example of somebody I probably different from Baker. I'm not buying a bunch of low numbered, high end.
Can't afford his low number high end stuff. It's real expensive right now.
So I would say graded, base. You can get short print serial numbered out of some different products. This is a good example of a player where you go looking for graded Chronicle stuff. I mean, it'll be soon.
Well, yeah, even not graded Chronicle stuff. If you can get some of his Chronicle stuff, some of the other products that are probably worth looking at for him that have already come out, his certified stuff is stuff that I would look at. Like, go look at cards from Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Now, again, I'm not making that comparison. I'm just talking about cards. Mm-hmm. Look at what they're lower. Don Russ. Go look at some of the lower end product prices for their rookies. Yep. And that's kind of what I think you're looking to try to accomplish
that's
with
a good
Trevor
way of
Lawrence.
putting it. If I'm like big on this pop for Trevor Lawrence, I'm targeting a lot of stuff. It's in the $30 to $70 range. Yeah. And get it in bulk and then wait. The time to sell is not if they make the playoffs. It's too late. Well, the time to sell is a couple weeks in. They get a couple wins. He puts up 350 yards one game. Yeah. Like, sell it.
Yeah, and then take your profits from that and go buy the big
if
card.
you believe in it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Go buy the big card then.
I agree. Man, look at us agreeing.
Yeah, on the same page.
Aaron Judge. Let's switch it over to baseball. A lot of hype. He was crushing the ball recently. Slowed down a little bit.
A lot. His batting average has dropped 35 points, almost 40 points.
Can you think of a power hitter other than Pete Alonso that people have wanted to be like a perennial all-star more than Aaron Judge?
No, because he has all the tools. The tools are just ridiculous. I personally think that the batting average early in the season was fluky. Most guys that are 60 home run guys are not 320 batting average guys.
Yeah.
It's just not who they are.
Right.
Right. And he's slowed down some. He was on a 65 home run pace. He's on about a 52 home run pace now.
Which is not bad.
No, it's not bad. But I think coming into the All-Star game right now, Aaron Judge for me right now is a drop.
So the hobby is still expecting the prices from a month ago.
Correct. And his stuff is still cooking.
Yeah.
I think you could sell his stuff now, and if you want to get back in late in the season, leading into the playoffs, you can, and then resell again if he goes off in the postseason. That's my opinion.
I'm not saying I agree. I'm not saying I disagree. I would say that I'm just more hopeful.
I mean, if you're in that camp, then he's neither a pop or a drop. He's a
specimen
hold.
like him that is just such a freak.
Well, yeah.
Like, you want him to hit for 300 and put up 60 home runs. Like, he's fun to watch. And I hate the Yankees.
I think anybody that's not from New York usually hates the Yankees.
All right, let's move back to football.
Yep.
Keep moving. Mac and cheese, Mac Jones.
Drop.
Oh.
Hard drop. Hardest of drops.
Say it in my ear hole right now.
I'll pump my chest out.
The New England Patriots are going to suck for a couple of years.
They are going to not be much better than a 500 team for the next couple of years.
Okay, that was once. Now let's say it in the left ear.
They're not going to be much better than a 500 team for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
They've got a defensive coordinator running the offense.
What could go wrong?
All the things. They don't have really anybody. Their best receiver is a dude that Miami, of all people, didn't want.
We've done a good job of giving away receivers.
Yeah, Devontae Parker and
Wes Welker
are not the same type of player. Devontae Parker had one good year in 4 years in Miami.
Who was throwing him the ball?
Does it matter?
Well, it's kind of relevant. Terry
McLaurin's had 4 good years in 4 years in the league
I would
with nobody
say
throwing him the ball.
that you can shut up about the Dolphins. You already were off on the wrong foot when we started. Mac Jones is a drop for me.
His stuff is so high.
It's too high. It's
high.
as if they've already proven
that he's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And here's what sucks for Mac Jones. It's a drop, but not because Mac Jones sucks.
Mac Jones is a league average quarterback.
I think he will be above average. I think it'll be 3 to 5 years before we see it.
If he is, it's only because of where he is and the coaching staff he has.
Yep.
That's it. That's the only reason.
And that's a good reason.
No, I'm not disagreeing
That's a really
with you.
good reason.
But he is not a toolsy, physical, tools type guy at all. Yep. And that's not me ragging on Mac Jones and saying he's terrible or anything like that. I don't think that's the case, but he is not what the hobby has turned him into.
By the way, if you're just now listening and you have never heard of Pop or Drop, it's been a while since we've done it. pop means with the current hobby market, we think this is a player worth investing in, buying, hanging on to, or doing a quick flip. If we say it is a drop, that means that we think they are on the downtrend. And if you have it right now, unload it, or you're waiting a really long time to sell.
And downtrend within the hobby, not even necessarily within their playing ability.
Mac Jones is a great example of that. I don't think he's going to perform terribly. I just think that the hobby is paying so much for him right now.
Yeah.
And it would take so much for him to produce the numbers that will keep him there.
Correct.
One more baseball. Khalil Watson. Everybody was chasing him in the Bowman products this year. And still holding the value.
Sell it. Drop as fast as you can
Give me
drop.
some numbers. Give me some idea on how he's doing.
He's slashing, and this is off the top of my head, but I'm gonna bet I'm real close.
It's not fair. I didn't give you time to research. Just ballpark.
He's slashing like 220, 270, 340.
Yep.
He's striking out like 42% of the time. This is in low A.
Yeah.
This is in low A. Dudes with 42% K rates in low A don't usually end up in the bigs. I'm not saying it's never happened, but it doesn't usually happen.
I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm also not saying Aquino's about to make a run.
Yeah, well, everybody ignored the swing and miss the first month of the season because when he did make contact, he was knocking out of the park. He had 6 home runs in their first 15 or 16 games. Since then, he's got 2.
So that's the funny thing about
he hit 190 in June.
If you're collecting baseball prospecting, if you're in that side of the hobby, it is really funny because you simultaneously have 2 voices. The one voice that says, no matter what's happening right now, every professional that has been a part of this industry, that has been ingrained in coaching, will tell you, calm down. Until you see about 1,500 to 2,500 at-bats, you don't even know what you're working with.
Right.
The flip side of the hobby is, if they aren't hot now, you're losing money.
Right.
So... And the other part of it is there's this middle road where it's like it's both. You have guys that nobody's even thinking about right now, but their Chrome Firsts are going to be selling for $30 to $50 raw, ungraded in a year. And then you have these other guys that everybody's hyping that are laying an egg. They're crapping the bed.
Yeah, and the reality is this: like there are things that you can look at in underlying stats, and this is what always cracks me up. And I can always tell who knows baseball and who just thinks they know baseball. When you look at a guy like Khalil Watson, if he had any underlying stats that indicate, like, for example, there are guys that are hitting 220 in the minors right now, but their batting average on balls in play is like 231. That's ridiculously unlucky. Like,
right.
But when you see a guy striking out almost half of the time that he's at the plate, that's an underlying stat that makes you go, oh.
What kind of contact they're making, if they're just popping up, if they're putting the ball on the ground with some, they're getting some contact on it. Are they moving the ball in the opposite field at all? Yeah. Even if they're right-handed batter, they're spraying to right field, but they're consistently putting that outside pitch out there.
Yeah,
those are indicators that they see the ball
and they can
There's
hold
just
back.
Some stuff to tune in on.
Exactly. Well, you have guys that hit a lot of ground balls, but the exit velos are 110, 108 on the ground.
Yep.
That's just I'm not going to say it's simple, but it's a swing mechanic change. All they got to do is put some loft, and then those 108 to 110 are out of the park.
Or they need to see 1,000 more at bats at 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of it that just comes down to that. If a great example of this is Last Dance, when you watch the Jordan documentary, and was it Frank Kona that was talking about getting all the reps in?
Yeah.
And he was like, Jordan was starting to figure it out going into the strike, just barely starting to see the ball.
Yeah.
And he had already done all these other things, the Arizona League, all this kind of stuff. Baseball is one where it is a long play, but if you're going to require a premium in the hobby and in the market, you better see a little bit of something that backs it up. And right now with Khalil, I would agree with you. I don't see that.
It's not there.
Let's keep it moving. Out of pop or drop, and we're going to go right into prospecting updates. First one, similar conversation. Unfortunately, Torkelson. There was a lot of hope around him going into the season because of his discipline, his work ethic. They were, a lot of these things, when you look back, they look like very journalistic answers on why they're excited about him. But they had seen him really working on weaknesses throughout the year. Striking similarities to a lot of players that just haven't seen pitching at that level, which you and I can sit back and watch, with that camera frame right over the right shoulder of the pitcher and say, how could you not see that? But if you've never seen, a ball moving over 90 miles an hour with movement
with
on
19
a 2-seam.
inches of movement. Yeah.
It's different beast
Yes.
altogether.
Yeah.
So
Here's the thing with torque. There have been a lot of analysts that have been making excuses all
I
through
would
this
agree.
rookie
Yeah,
year.
people really are cheering for him.
Because everybody was so high on him. Nobody likes to be wrong. And so when he struggled early, it was, his whole career, he's a warm weather player. When it's cold out, he just doesn't play well. Well, we're 2 months into warm weather, and he's hitting 202
yeah.
with like 6 home runs.
Yeah. At what level?
At what level? The majors.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
The one that counts.
it appears as if right now that the dude can't hit major league pitching. Now, is his career like in the toast? Is he
No.
done for?
No,
Of course not. He could make some adjustments and all that type of stuff. But right now, if you're holding his cards, I wouldn't sell any of them because they're dirt freaking cheap. I've got a few. I'm lucky that I didn't get into them heavy.
I couldn't move a numbered refractor for $5 last week.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like he can't. Right now, he cannot consistently hit major league pitching. And again, what's concerning is his K rate is like 35%.
Yeah.
He's swing and miss a lot. Contrasted to Riley Green, who came up and was hurt for the first part of the year, but has now had 3 weeks in the majors. And he's only hitting 265, but there's not a lot of Ks.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of Ks. There's a lot of contact.
Big deal at that level.
Well, yeah, because eventually the luck's going to turn and those balls are going to fall into play.
Yep. Let's keep moving with prospecting.
Yep.
I know it's one that you've been very excited about. Let's jump over to Cowser first, though.
Yeah, you're just teasing me.
Yeah.
Colton Cowser, Baltimore Orioles prospect. So I will say this before I talk about Colton Cowser. The Baltimore Orioles organization in general, pretty solid. Like if you look at it now, as far as organizational depth, like DSL all the way to AAA, they don't have a massive number of mid-tier guys, but they've got 4 or 5 guys that are relatively high-end prospects. Colton Cowser, so most scouts, most baseball people will tell you that the most difficult transition in professional baseball is from the A levels to AA. AA is chock full of pitchers who have been in the majors 50, 80, 100 starts, and they've just bounced back and forth. They're on the way out of their career. They don't want to retire. They think they're going to go. That jump is the equivalent jump in other sports from like going from college to the NFL or high school to the NBA.
Which, like, a friend of mine played in the NFL, and he talked about, and this guy was an All-American player.
Yeah, 2 or 3 time.
Yeah. All-American, Big Ten, big shot, cover of Sports Illustrated, and he said that the first few snaps in real NFL games, no matter how hard he was trying to move,
didn't even know what was going on.
He felt like his feet were in concrete.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just a different
it
world.
was just a pace he'd never seen. So for those of us like myself and you, Gary, that are armchair quarterbacks, that we got to play beyond high school, we got to do a couple things.
Yeah.
But we have no idea what some of those leaps look like.
Right.
Like seeing that kind of pitching, if they're putting the ball in play, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So Colton Cowser, last year, 2021 draft, went from low A to high A in the same season, had a real nice season. Wasn't like jump off the page, make you lose your mind like this dude's a top 10 prospect in 2 years, but it was this kid has the potential to be really good. Made the jump to AA. And from mid to late April when AA season started till the end of May, he hit like 195. It was a tough transition. But since then, he's hitting like 415. He's figured it out. And the power is there. The velos are there. The barrel rate is there. He's not a big swing and miss dude. He's like a 21, 22% K rate, which it's not ideal, but it's not terrible.
And I think when you're looking at prospects, it's really important to look at the contact rate. When you're looking at guys that are already in the big leagues, you can deal with a little bit. You can deal with a little bit of that if you have like the Alonso effect or some of these other guys that are, if they're consistently hitting 30 to 40 home runs a year, and a bunch of doubles, like they're relevant in the hobby. But when you're prospecting, this stuff matters because you're trying to project.
Right. Well, and Cowser's in 2021 Bowman draft. That's where his Bowmans are, his first Bowmans. And he's kind of figured it out. He's put it together in Double A. It would not shock me if he's in Triple A by the end of the season. The other guy in that organization, I know he's not on the list, but the other guy in that organization, and I don't want to talk about buying his cards from a hobby standpoint because I think that you've probably missed the boat as far as your ability to really cash in, unless you're planning a long-term hold, is Gunnar Henderson. He has gone all the way up to AAA this year. Started the year in high, went to AA, went to AAA. Still just absolutely torching the ball. At one point, I thought he might end up in the show by the end of the year, but the Orioles are actually in contention now, so they may not bring him up unless somebody gets hurt. But, yeah, Colton Cowser is a dude that I was high on coming into this year, and he was kind of struggling early. But, again, that's just such a tough jump to make. The biggest difference, especially for these guys that are kind of power over spray guys, low A and high A ball, there's not a lot of dudes who throw with really high velocity that have the control to consistently work the inside part of the plate. And when you get to Double A, there's dudes throwing 95 that can throw it on the black inside. And that is a real tough adjustment. Like you as a hitting coach previously, Jason, as somebody who was a baseball player, you can talk about how difficult that type of control and pitch is to make good quality contact with and get the barrel to.
Yeah.
It just is. It's
your
tough
body wants to move a different direction.
Yeah.
And you have to just the plate discipline is something that's completely different.
Yeah. So seeing that's like guys like Ellie De La Cruz that are just killing it at high A this year for the Reds. That's such a huge high ceiling. It's going to be really interesting to see next year at Double A because I don't think he'll make that jump this year. They'll keep him down. He's still only 19.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see somebody with that long of a lever in their swing, what he's able to do with that transition.
So, like at the collegiate level, one thing that they would do pretty consistently, and small college where I'm at, but I know that this is what they do D1
Right.
and everything else too. You have a BP coach he throws 5,000 pitches a day. I don't know how they do it, but they're throwing a ball. It could have a small number 1 written on it, a small number 2, and your job is to call out the number that's written on the ball. And the goal is that it's not about the number. It's about learning to read the spin. Why does that matter? Because at a higher level, for me, at the college level I was playing at, you would see a few guys that were hitting the low 90s, but it was consistently in the 80s. But the ball's moving. That's not slow. You're trying to read the spin out of the hand so that you can guess the direction the ball is moving, and then you still need to have the discipline to know
whether
where
you're
your your hands need to still be in the right position. Your weight still needs to be back. There's just a lot involved there. So that's why you can totally nerd out over prospecting. And probably half of you listening to this are like, my God, just move on. But the other half of you can see how it's a lot of fun to kind of go through it this way. That's it for the prospects.
Oh, you jerk.
Just kidding. I'll let you talk about Volpe again.
Another dude figured it out. First 2 months of the year, everybody. Now, Volpe's stuff got stupid high last year. Okay? I'll be the first to admit that. I was very lucky that I was sitting on a ton of it because I liked him early before everybody else liked him, and I bought his stuff up before everybody else was buying his stuff up.
You invented him.
I didn't invent him, but I liked what I saw from him. I liked his makeup. His
shadow was just
it was on point. The rouge, it was
blush.
there. His stuff exploded last year, and then this year coming into Double A, the expectations were through the roof. And much like Colton Cowser, first month and a half, almost 2 months of the year, he was hitting 185. Now, all of his underlying stats, again, we were talking about that earlier with Khalil Watson, his underlying stats still looked good. He was still here's how good he was everywhere else but the plate. He was still a positive WAR player hitting 188.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to do. Stealing bases, great in the field, getting on his OBP, even when he was batting 188, his OBP was still almost 300. So he was impacting the game in other ways. Since he figured it out, he's hitting like 340. His batting average has gone up 50 points in the last month and a half. He's got 37 or 38 steals. He's got 12 or 13 home runs. Like, he's figured it out.
And the guys that are going to typically the guys that are going to do really well, they do. It's less incremental, and it's more like grinding and then a leap.
Yeah,
grinding
then a switch flips.
and then a leap.
Yep.
And that's what that's why the farm system exists, because it's just going to take a lot. You can't draft these guys and throw them in. It is not the NBA. It is not the NFL. It is a very different game. It is a drastically different game.
It's a different game than it was 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, there were guys like Ken Griffey Jr. that are in the majors at 19. There's been one guy like that in the last 15 years, and that's Juan Soto. And he's
Everybody was just like drinking Four Locos and creatine and steroids and HGH.
I don't even want to talk about the steroid argument in baseball. Somebody was whining about that the other day.
You go back a little further, Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden are just like
Go back further than that,
speed.
when there were bowls of methamphetamine on the locker room table.
How dare you talk about pain relievers like
Greenies. They, all these dudes in the Hall of Fame were high out of their minds playing baseball. But we can't put guys on steroids in.
Yeah, they all just sat in the dugout and watched the grass grow after the game. All right, long episode, but I'm not done yet.
Are we long?
Yeah,
Where
we're
we
at 50 minutes.
Look at us.
Yeah.
Work.
We'll just do this real quick thing. All-Star, Pop or Drop, 3 names.
Pop or Drop, or just
It's an
snubs?
All-Star version of it.
Oh, okay.
Can I?
You can. I didn't know that's what it
We'll
was.
ask the questions?
I did. I didn't know that's what we were doing. Okay.
You know that KGB one?
I do.
Sorry if you're in the
From
KGB.
The Office?
Hey, don't come kill me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, All-Star, Pop or Drop, real quick. 3 people in the home run derby. I already know how you feel about the first one. Pete Alonso, the polar bear. Is he a pop or a drop in the hobby in relation to the home run derby? He is a pop. I will say it.
You want to go buy his stuff right now?
Well,
if you've been holding his stuff, sell it after the home run derby.
That's not the game we play. Go buy it. You're just saying it in the hobby right now.
Well, that's what Pop or Drop is. Pop, go buy it because you can make money on it
later.
later.
What if you have it?
Well, if you have it, then yeah, it's time to sell it. Pete Alonso is what he is. He's C.J. Cron, and everybody thinks he's amazing. He hits 265, 270. He's going to hit 40
Here's the difference.
home runs. Hey, who cares?
You know what C.J. Cron isn't doing?
Hitting home runs? Yes, he is.
Dominating the home run derby.
No, that's true. He's not dominating the home run derby.
I'm saying right now, listen to me. Don't listen to Gary, everyone. If you have Pete Alonso and you've been waiting for him to become
turn your $3 card into a $5 card.
A guaranteed Hall of Famer.
Jesus. Okay.
I've got...
I know. That's where this is
I
coming
don't think
from.
that's going to happen.
No.
I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe, but I don't think it's going to. However, if you've been wanting to unload it and make a little bit of money, this is the time of year. Probably the next time you'll be able to make money off Pete Alonso will be next year at this time when he's going to the home run derby.
I will agree with that.
That's what I'm saying. And hobby related, that constitutes a pop in my book.
Okay.
Up next, one of the GOATs. I hated him. Just because of the team he was a part of for so long as a Reds fan. But Albert Pujols is in the home run derby. I think it's awesome. I don't think he will have breath for the second round of this.
No.
But what if? What if he just went off?
That would be amazing.
I
It'd be
think
so cool to see.
Yeah, Albert Pujols is expensive. Albert Pujols is expensive in the hobby. He's in the home run derby. Pop or drop? It's a tough question because it's typically a pretty short-sighted conversation.
That's the thing. So if you're looking at this from a longer-term standpoint, I still think buying Albert Pujols now is not a bad investment.
And Topps traded as his rookie, right?
Correct.
And
2001.
Ichiro's, right?
Yeah, 2001.
That's expensive stuff to get in on.
It is, but here's the thing about Albert Pujols. And in our current sports consumption society, we are, and even more so in the sports card hobby, we are massive creatures of recency bias. Mm-hmm. By any objective measure, Albert Pujols is one of the 10 greatest right-handed hitters in the history of baseball. By any objective measure. But it's not even, I might even say he's a top 5 or 6.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean,
I don't think there's a better first baseman ever.
I think you're flirting with top 10 all-time hitters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right or lefty.
And so this is a guy who, by the time he finishes, it's all said and done, he's going to have 650-plus home runs.
He's already like 680-something.
Is he 680
yeah,
something?
he just hit one the other night.
Yeah, so, he may get to 700 if he's stubborn and sticks around for another year. His career batting average may end up dipping under 300 because he held on too long. But as far as a 10 to 11...
685.
Yeah. So a 10 to 11 year window, this dude hit 320 with 35 to 45 home runs every single year. He was, as a hitter, not an all-around baseball player, but a hitter, he was a better version of Mike Trout for a 10-year window.
He's 15 home runs away from being one of 4 people to have 700 home runs.
And 3,000 hits.
Yeah.
Is there anybody? Willie Mays and Babe Ruth would be the only people that have 703,000, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, how many does Barry Bonds have? How many hits?
Barry Bonds, I don't know that he ever got to 3,000.
So you got Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth, and A-Rod.
Okay.
Well, A-Rod was 696. Oh,
Yeah.
get back in there, A-Rod.
So in general, I think that recency bias, especially with the collectors that have come into this market in the last 3 years, people don't really realize how great Albert Pujols was. So, and I'm not putting him on a hobby level with like the 52 mantle and things like that, but
Because of that.
But I do think that 10, 12 years from now,
Yeah.
his 2001 tops traded in a PSA 10 might be worth 6 to 8 times what it is now.
So what I feel you saying is, how dare us even put him in the pop or drop segment?
Well, I don't know about that because I think it's worth talking about. I do think it's worth talking about.
I can't give an answer.
But I don't think that there's any reason to sell his stuff right now if you have it.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots of reasons to buy it if you can afford it.
Yeah. Long-term hold.
Yeah.
Moving on to more short-term conversations. J-Rod.
Pop, he's figured it out too. Started off the year slow. Everybody was kind of like, oh. And as he and Bobby Witt kind of struggled in tandem, Bobby Witt has continued to incrementally get better. And J-Rod, like you were talking about earlier, it was struggle, grind, click.
Yep.
And in his last month and a half, he's hitting like 330,
Yeah.
hit 12 home runs, 11 home runs, bunch of he's an all-star.
And the swing mechanically.
Oh, it's
Talk
so
to
pretty.
golfers.
Yeah.
You know, when you figure something out mechanically, it's such a micro thing that makes a macro difference.
Oh, for sure, because it just becomes repeatable.
Yeah.
It just becomes repeatable. And he's way faster than even scouts ever anticipate. I think the most optimistic scouts had him as a 50-55 game speed type guy. And he's already got like 13 or 14 stolen bases.
Yeah.
And he covers a ton of ground in center field for that team. So I think that he is still a pop, although his short printed, numbered, like autograph stuff is not cheap.
Yeah.
Not cheap.
You're putting a lot of faith. It's still a little bit early. I would say I'm undecided. If I was sitting on some, though, I'd be a little bit more excited. I don't have very much of his
Right?
Some base stuff. Real quick, because my goodness, it's been a while since it's been over an hour, but we're closing in on it.
You guys all love it out
You
there.
wanted to do
You
a
want
segment
more.
on All-Star Game snub. Who should have made it that didn't? Up
Yes.
first, Josh Bell.
Listen, Juan Soto's on the All-Star team, and Juan Soto's an amazing baseball player whose stats this year, again, back to the underlying stats conversation, his on-base percentage this month is almost 600. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep.
But Josh Bell on the season is slashing like 315, 380, 520. Like, got 15 or 16 home runs off the top of my head. No idea how, other than name recognition and career longevity, that he got snubbed and Juan Soto got in for the Nationals.
He came out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but he's been in Washington for 2 years.
I know.
I think he's going to probably get traded by the trade deadline because he's a switch hitter who's seeing the ball well this year. So there's a contender out there that's going to be like, yeah, we can use him.
Up next, guy that I just love. He reminds me of the old school, like 80s, 90s era of baseball players. I don't know how else to explain that. Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
Maybe he just has a very 80s name.
So
Freddie Freeman. What a good baseball name.
It is. And so Paul Goldschmidt is who the fans voted in as a starter. Well-deserved. He's the front runner for the MVP in the NL
Hall
this
of
year.
Famer, right?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
He needs another 2 years at
I think he's a Hall of
solid level production, but I agree. I think he's a Hall of Famer too. And he's far and away the leader in the right now for the NL MVP. And then the players voted in Pete Alonso as the reserve at first base ahead of Freddie Freeman. The only Pete Alonso's got RBIs and he's got home runs, but
he's got to have good jokes.
Freddie Freeman's hitting .315. He's got 12 home runs. He's providing protection in that lineup for 3 different people. Mm-hmm. I don't know how Freddie Freeman isn't on that squad. I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right along the same lines. Up next, Austin Riley.
Austin Riley's been one of the 3 best third basemen in the major leagues for 2 years in a row. He's really good defensively. He's not elite defensively, but he's really good defensively. And again, kid's got 25 home runs at the All-Star break. He's got 60 RBI almost and he's batting almost 300 on a team that is in contention. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't picked by either the players or Major League Baseball as one of the final guys. Like, that doesn't make one out, especially when you look at like Willem Contreras with his 120 at bats getting named to the squad as the DH to replace Bryce Harper. That's asinine to me. That
it's starting to look like NBA All-Stars.
Yeah, it's
just like a hangout.
Yeah, like how do you put Willem Contreras ahead of Austin Riley for that spot? It makes no sense.
This really goes back, if I've said it once, Bud Selig started all this when he let everything end in a tie in the All-Star game.
I don't disagree, but I will say this. I would take Bud Selig back over what we've got right now.
You know what I would like for you to take back?
In a heartbeat. You might talk about the Dolphins?
Yeah, it was unnecessary, unmerited, and it hurt my feelings. I do have feelings that you
I
can
forget
hurt.
that you're not dead inside like I am.
Can we maybe get an apology?
No.
Not without it being backhanded?
Right.
I'm sorry you're so fragile. I'm sorry you're a Dolphins fan.
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry you still believe in Tua.
See, you're doing all this for yourself. I don't even have to do it.
Yeah, isn't that great?
You're working through your own issues. It's like a Bill Burr special.
I mean, we can't end with such a bad joke.
That wasn't terrible.
It was not funny. Bill Burr's funny. You're not.
That's fair. See, and there you go. We can end there.
All right. This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye.
Peace.